Hope we enjoyed our sponsor demos. Up next, we have the dynamic duo of Patrick Coble and Ray Davis. They will be presenting on Zero Trust. Take it away, gentlemen.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, what's going on?
Are we on? Is this thing a real thing? Are we at a real
think-
place? Oh, I see a slide.
Yep.
All right. Let's see if there's a comment. Like, no one's made a noise since 1:30. They may have all went to sleep. So Jonathan was the last person that said something. Is there anyone on the other side of this presentation? Or is this one of those like deep fake? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I see some meeps and some burps. Okay, yep, people are alive.
All right, cool.
All right, let's shake and bake. All right, so I'm Patrick Coble. I'm the Nashville CUGC leader, CTP, VDI nerd. Oh, look at it. Everybody's waking up now, right?
Yeah,
hit
I
it.
know. I'm Ray Davis. I'm a CTA and just one of the Citrix guys, I guess you could say.
Well, with a beard, right?
With a beard,
So
yeah.
kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. So, all right, let's get into this. I think when this topic came up, it's in my little world, I always find it kind of interesting because it's like it's the word in the security world that's like cloud, right? Like, oh yeah, zero trust, zero trust, zero trust, zero trust, zero trust, zero trust. What is it? Well, this is like at least a definition. And I think that we kind of underline the two important parts, like sort of kind of three, but eliminating implicit trust, continuously validating every stage in a digital interaction, from authentication to enumeration to seeing something to clicking something, and never trust, always verify. I know if Mr. Zujic was here, Martin, that was his thing, because he said that was Eastern European, right? Was to never trust and always verify, right? Because of everything that goes on there. So we look at what Citrix says. If you Google zero trust in Citrix, you're going to find some Citrix blog articles. And then obviously, even under solutions and secure access, there'll be some zero trust related things. And they do a pretty good job going over into it, and then dive into it a little bit more. And many of those things are kind of traditional, but it's trying to get a smarter access, and scanning all the QR codes is not recommended because, there could be bad things happening there, Mr. John. But yeah, this tech brief by Florin is a great example of that, because he basically walks through a lot of this. So if you just type in there, you can read more about it. But what we've done is we've kind of broken it into some of the chapters. And, Ray, do you trust the internet?
No.
No.
I don't even trust my own email I send.
That's right. Right. And so the key with trusting the internets is trust nothing, right? And then firewalling the things, right? So having something is better than nothing, like most things in life. But you got to have something that helps protect that front door. And yeah, the USB flash drive that says winning lottery numbers or HR bonus information is probably not a recommended plug into your computer kind of situation. And then this is a question, even with you, Ray, is are y'all blocking any countries, extra countries, and doing any of the GeoIP and things like that?
Yes. My
Yep.
previous company, yes, all the time. My new company, I'm still learning the ropes, but they are very, very secure, and I'm finding that out a lot. But yes.
Yeah. And then, and I guess in the simple terms there, it's like, if you're not doing business with these countries, you can, and you don't trust them, or lots of attacks keep happening from them, you can block them. But we know it's not perfect, right? A simple VPN connection, a simple server on Azure East 2, bada bing, bada boom. Now they're not from that country. Always on VPN solutions like Zscaler and things like that. Those are always pretty neat. And a good way to do that for local protection that comes all the way down to the endpoint, so that your internet is not just going over clear text for some of those things. And then, Citrix overall, it's, ADC has its GeoIP, its bad IP, its bot protection, and its WAF for all trust the internet related things, right? And so these are all good things to have. And I guess right now, Ray, I think these are all premium edition, right? I think GeoIP might be advanced now. I think they've moved some stuff around.
I'm
And I
not
think
sure on the Geo.
yeah, because I think bot protection is also a separate SKU these days too. And so if we don't trust anything on the internet as part of zero trust, then trusting the identities. And I think most people's regular flavor is going to be Active Directory and Azure Active Directory. And then you're going to have the fancy people that are using something like SAML. So some other thing plus something, right? Ping, Okta, one login, Citrix FOS, something like that. And then, the most important thing to remember about trusting identity is, you need to have some kind of MFA thing going on. You can't just have a username and password and hope for the best. And what's the Citrix solution for that is enable multi-factor authentication. And I know there's been lots of work to that, because I know when Citrix Cloud first came out, you could only MFA on, your on-site gateway. And now they're starting to get all that ready, and they're also making sure that they're Okra is better. So we have fried Okra / fried Okta. It happens to the best of us. That was maybe me eating while I was editing that with Ray, so that's my fault. So trusting the passwords, should you? No, for sure, right? This is when penetration testers and attackers have access to 14.4 billion username and passwords, there's very likely that I can type in companyname.com and be able to find a person that has signed up for a Home Depot card, or stayed at a Marriott and went to Target or was in the government. And those breaches have happened, and they associated with their corporate email address. And so with that many breaches, it's just everywhere. And if you don't have multi-factor authentication, you definitely can't trust the password, because everyone knows the password. So that's no good. And an important part of this is weak passwords, right? We shouldn't trust those passwords either, because size matters. If you still have a company and you're still using Active Directory, doing all that, and you just have 10 character, maybe 12 character passwords, even with complexity on, you're definitely a very weak password, no matter kind of what you do to it, unless it's almost untypable. So you need to get like 16 to 20 characters is kind of the sweet spot, especially for like privileged accounts. So that way it takes a long time to crack said password. So I know I've seen places that still have 8 characters as the minimum. I mean, Ray, probably same thing. I mean, but with places you've seen too. So
I do a 22 character password, and it kind of gets me when I got to put it in my phone. So
yeah, it can be really annoying to do that, for sure. So trust your privilege. Do you know everyone that runs your Citrix deployment? This is like a good question. I know, Ray. I mean, how many people do you work with for your party and on your collective team that have to get in and out and do things?
2.
All right. Well, I mean, hopefully that makes it 50% chance of a good, because when I go to a lot of places, most people don't know who all their admins are in a Citrix deployment, right? It varies so much. And then this is a really big one. Who are the admins in your cloud tenants? Who has that root access?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it's all over the place at times.
Yeah, well, and the bad part about when we had Active Directory and it's in our data center, we could control who had access to it. And if we gave rights to the wrong people, they could add other people. Well, in the cloud, it's the same situation, but it's just magnified, because in most cases, the cloud is just one less step to the internet than your on-site deployment, right? It's just hanging on by a thread in a network security group, hoping that you've got everything situated. And then the next one is, who are your admins or your applications, your file servers, and your database servers? I see this where everything is just ran by domain admins and no one else should be able to do anything. So yeah, domain users shouldn't be the Citrix admin group. Correct. Yeah. That's a day wrecker. And
Yeah.
then who or what's in domain admins? I mean, Ray, I know you've seen a bunch of this stuff too. Is sometimes those, even for small organizations, a domain admin group gets out of control with service accounts and random people and things in there.
A lot of people use service accounts to make something work because they can't figure it out, and then they set it to get it working, and then
They
7
truly
years
do
later,
forget it, right? It's like the Ronco food dehydrator underneath your stairs, right? Like you set it, you were like, hey, we'll make them domain admins because it made it work, but we forget it completely. And
yeah.
now they're just sitting there in domain admins and haven't had a password change in X years, which is always bonkers. So after that, we've got our policies. So what are the group policies have been applied, right? And then this is where I know we've talked about this is structure really matters because that will determine how many places you have to link the same policy, if you have to do blocked inheritance and enforcement. Do you keep your stuff pretty organized over there, Ray, for y'all's?
So that's a good question. The short answer is I'm actually in between a new adventure right now, so I'm still figuring that piece out. But the previous company, the answer was yes, but it had to be revamped around some things.
Right. Yeah. And, and the Citrix session policies are also the next thing, right? So we talk group policies are what's controlling most Citrix deployments. Now, I know there's some Linux virtual desktop people out there, right, that are out there, maybe like 22 of them or 122. But the rest of the millions of other people that are using Windows to do VDI, your session policies become very important, and knowing what is allowed to come in and out of your session is very, very important. And especially when you come into zero trust, because by default, everything should be blocked and you should only open up things based on that contextual access that someone's in a very specific AD group or meets that other criteria. And then this is one that is another one that's related to that is what policy frameworks are deployed. So some people are using like CIS, NIST, DoD STIGs, PCI, if you're in credit card, ISO 01 and 02 on the IEC side, and many others. Yep. And you got WIM policies in there. I see that too from James. So that comes in there. But the most important part about these policies is if you just nexted a Citrix, VMware, pretty much any deployment, Active Directory, for that example, it's insecure, like by default, because it's all about, having that compatibility with old versions of Windows and things like that. Oh yeah, some IRS love over there. So you got to not have default policies, and looking at like things like CIS, NIST, DoD STIGs, and depending on if you're a European country, there's some specific ones depending on which part of the EU you're in and country specific. You want to look at those so that you're making sure you're doing everything you can. But then, do you trust your applications? And can other applications be executed? Or do your users just have access to the applications they need? Most deployments I've seen, and Ray, you speak of this too, anything can be executed. So if I get access to an EXE, I can double click on it and shake and bake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anybody here using any of the common ways that we stop trusting every application, like App Locker, Application Control, WDAC, or just allow lists from an AV? Is anyone here using some kind of application control? I hope there's like one person at least. Because if we're just App Locker, all right, good. Yeah, so if we're just allowing users to execute anything, they will execute anything, right?
Carbon Black. That's a big one, and CloudStrike.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is you can either, in many cases, to that point there, is you can pick that antivirus solution to be that one stop for those types of policies, or you can mix it in with Active Directory and some of the Microsoft solutions. So whichever one you feel more comfortable with, and editing and maintaining, that's the one you should definitely pick. And sometimes you may have both. I've seen that too. And then application control from Avanti. That was probably my favoriteest thing from the AppSense days and everything else, was that ability to control applications beyond anything that was out there, because you could actually hide menus in the context menu. You could say, I'm going to publish Microsoft Word and make sure they can't do file save or file open, but they can close it. So they can only view something and that's it. I was like, that's pretty freaking sweet. And then trust the execution or the environment. And then this is, we're just hoping that, malware is all happy and kind of everything in between there. And so what do you have for malware? I see, we already see some CrowdStrike, some Beyond Trust. And I know we just said Carbon Black too. I see a lot of CrowdStrike and Carbon Black. And I used to see a lot of Silence. And I'm seeing less and less McAfee, Symantec, CrowdStrike. Yeah. The Falcon.
Yeah. I actually just got introduced to that 3 weeks ago.
What's your thoughts so far?
It's pretty good. It doesn't, so far, it doesn't destroy the VDI environment.
Yeah.
And where some of its competitors, I really struggled with.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And there's kind of like 3 main flavors. You're going to see like just kind of classic things that are branded antivirus. And then you're going to see things that are EDR and XDR. So endpoint detection and response, that's like the not super new. And then XDR is like the fancy because it has an X on it, like Professor X, which is pretty good. I think if you put an X on there, it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, the next part is trusting that execution, because, we're allowing things to go on from there. What are you doing for logging and alerting? And so you do have free options like Windows Event Logs forwarding. And then if you were even on a Linux system like syslog, but you've got to have some kind of SIM, right? No logging equals no incident response. And I put this little note here because some people, when we talk about logging, they get even outside of zero trust, is you got to tier your systems, right? Like your firewall, you definitely need to know what's going in and out, but your authentication is next. So all your domain controllers, making sure you know who's logging in, who just locked their password. And then all your file servers and database servers is usually where the important jiglets are all over the place. And your application servers, then your remaining servers. Then I call out finance and leadership before you try to boil the ocean and log everything. Because we know with wire fraud and everything going on, that finance and your leadership, your corporate leadership that's public, your board of directors, those types of things are going to be the people that are targeted to say, hey, can you transfer us some monies? So you definitely should be logging, and zero trust is part of that, because if we're going to be able to adjust your access as you do things, we have to know what you're doing to be able to do that. So super duper important there. And then trust the enforcement. If something bad happens, what happens next, right? Is there some automatic quarantining? Ray, have you messed with NSX any?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Not. I've read about it. I haven't messed with it though.
Yeah, because it's kind of one of the only ways outside of a couple random things that if you do something bad on a VM and it knows that it did something bad, that it can pull the plug.
The place I'm at now, I started been there for 3 weeks. They're really big about NSX, and
cool.
They have it implemented and have it all vetted out, and we actually had a meeting about it this week. But
yeah. Right. Does anybody here in the chat here have deployed NSX and is using it for like east-west protection? I know Stuart likes the X's, so we're talking about NSX, so that should be cool for 2, right? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so incident response is super there. Counterpart has. Yep. Incident response is really, really important, and having something. So, one of the things I love about Citrix, and, VMware has recently added it too, I guess about 1.5 years ago, is their analytics feature, which is when you're logged in and something goes on, it can boot a user out after they get over a certain risk score, or record their session at a certain risk score and boot them out. So it's like basically having a SIM that's paying attention to Citrix without you having to pay attention to it. So you can go to bed and someone can get blocked in the middle of the night for doing shady things. Yep, log insight, vRealize, network insight. Yep, all good stuff there. And this is one that I added that I don't think Ray's seen here, but trusting the clipboard and the randoms. So I was talking to a customer the other day about penetration tests, and sometimes all I can, when I'm breaking into an office for a physical audit like that, if you just carry a clipboard with a piece of paper on it and there, you can walk into a lot of places and just look official and people will trust you. And so who's walking around your office? So there's been a couple times when I've broken into places that I've actually fixed other people's computers while I was in there doing a penetration test, because they would say, "Hey, are you working on a computer? Oh yeah, the printer was messed up. Oh, my printer's messed up too." So, you might have the Nick Burns company computer guy down there, saying move to get over there. So paying attention when you actually go back to the office. I know there's probably not many people going to the office anymore. But maybe the same thing holds true around your house. If someone's coming around with a clipboard, you got to be taking care of it. So, yeah, Ray, let's talk about these pillars of zero trust with Mario.
Yeah. So, what is your data that's you need to be protected? So, just about everything, right? And what are the requests that coming in from the attacks? Where does the data sit in the network? The traditional DMZ LAN approach, and that worked for many years, but now there's so many different layers. Yeah. Who needs access to these privileged accounts? Why do they need access to these privileged accounts? What are they doing to these privileged accounts? In most organizations you go to, you'll see that some places have like this master account and they kind of just do what they need to do, and then they don't think nothing of it. And then some places you go to where every little piece is itemized and set up to where they only can do their little bubble, which is great. And then why do they need to access that data? Like how is it within their job scope to get to this resource? Like I come across something where Citrix session recording, I work with it, I set it up, but I don't really need to access the recordings, and they have an account for that, right? So just because I'm a Citrix admin engineer doesn't mean I need to get into the recordings and look.
Yep.
Just things like that.
Yeah, and I think the access to data, how long? I've seen that like
Did I skip
white
one?
people.
Yeah, I did.
Is for how long is the backup retention, along with thinking about this is I did an audit a while back, and it was supposed to just be a 3,000 user company, but they had 12,000 AD accounts. And how did they have 12,000 AD accounts? Is because all the other AD accounts are just sitting out there and disabled from every person over the past 15 years. And I said, just when we went back to identity and protecting yourself there, I said, does anybody know if someone turns on one of those accounts? And they all looked at me and said, no. And I was like, all right, so that means you've got thousands of accounts that could be enabled at any second and cause you just all kinds of harm, and you would never know. And so keeping stuff for just as long as you have to, accounts included, very, very, very important. Anything on there, Ray? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's kind of like just reiterating the layers of the trust ring of circle, the layers of the onion, I guess you could say.
Totally. Yeah, the security onion. Yep. And then, I mean, I'm seeing Fire Mario, but he has the wrong hat on, but his hand's charging up. So I'm excited about this slide.
Oh yeah, this is I'm a big Mario fan, so when I was doing my research trying to figure out some architectural designs from Citrix, I found this one, and what this kind of breaks down is the actual layers from the outside in with your choice of your federation, whether it's Okta, Google, Radius, and then we go into talk about how VPN is the enhanced security with SaaS on the web pages for how you're accessing your data, and then VPN less. that word always throws me off. That dashless for physical machines. Like, I'm not a big fan of physical machines. I kind of like, I'm all about any kind of like Citrix related, virtual background, like no laptops, no desktops, and you just give you a thin client, and then it just has like a VPN type client for NetScaler, and you're done.
Yep.
That's kind of how I am, but some people don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Outbound control. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of people have like kind of flocked to like remote PC and some of that ability for that physical desktop, but hopefully still bring it into the same trust circle we're kind of talking about as part of Zero Trust.
Yeah. So like outbound control, like, I mean, you guys heard of the recent stuff with some of the video card manufacturer, in which that's, we use that a lot in most of our environments. And like the outbound control, I needed to check some viv files and check some articles. Well, guess what? I can't because, it's locked down.
Yep.
And
yeah, and I see that a lot in audits too, is that if you're in anything on the right, even, anything that's a virtual desktop, whether it's server or a desktop OS workstation, is that you most likely have access to the whole internet. And that's because I've seen so many places that have content control from so many different vendors, but they just don't apply it to the server/desktop VLANs in the data center. So you can have wild, wild west internet from that going out from those instances that you don't know. And then depending on your logging situation, you might not know what in the world they're even doing, when it comes to DNS and the correlation of those web lookups.
Yeah,
Is Chris right with Kamehameha Mario? Is that that is?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean King Kamehameha. I mean that's like Hawaiian.
Oh,
I don't know.
It must be a new Mario game I'm unaware about.
It could be possible. Chris will have to let us know. Oh, this one looks like a good one.
Yeah, so this is I think of Bowser as the bad guy. He's the threat, So this is pretty much us taking our threats and our zero trust, anything that comes in, and basically pretty much bouncing it, So it goes back to the dynamic of implementing zero trust, who it is, scanning, why they need it, monitoring, validating the access. Somebody makes a change in AD, somebody makes a change in Azure, monitoring, continuous authentication as far as who's doing what, monitoring with products like, CloudStrike, Carbon Black Response, Logarithm, things like that. And don't get me wrong, this is great. This stuff, like all these products we have, is great, but anybody knows that they can be a nightmare to set up and configure. You got your 20-second login optimal VDI time, right? Well, unfortunately, some of that stuff's going to increase. It's just the nature of the beast, and I fight it constantly. I'm always fighting it, but unfortunately, security comes first, and that's just the world we live in.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and we're going to continue to live in too, right? With the attacks and things that have happened, it's just getting worse. When we've got like Colonial Pipeline getting shut down last year, we got Oldsmore, Florida, with someone about to put some poison basically in the water from a team viewer session that was open to the outside, right? Like, there's so many little things that turn into a big thing and have become real now. Some like real cyber attacks that have caused serious financial damage to more than just the company, to the whole, country in some cases. So it's big deal. So security is you can't play around as much anymore. It used to be just kind of fun, but not anymore. So this is kind of almost our last slide because we wanted to make sure we had a chance for anybody to ask questions. So, the key to zero trust is there is no silver bullet. There is no one thing that you click and now you have a zero trust deployment. it's all the layers and all the things we've kind of talked about. Having control, visibility, and options and security methods and policies deployed are your only hope, right? And so, you got anything on that, Ray?
No, I mean there's everybody that asks me questions like, what solution do I deploy? What do I do? And it's like, well, there's no real one size fits all. It's all these different aspects, all the way from the outside in and then from the inside out. And honestly, sometimes myself, I have to pull up good old Google and do some research because there's so much stuff out there and it gets confusing fast.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and when people use terms like zero trust all the time, and it's kind of like been a marketing push for, I guess, almost the past like 2 years. Like, I see a zero trust email come across like every day, and everybody who's offering zero trust is usually only offering a small portion of it, right? A product that is the XDR client, so an endpoint protection agent of some kind, but it doesn't make your Active Directory more secure. It doesn't fix your logging problem. It doesn't fix this. It doesn't fix that. So that's another part of this, is that whole angle.
yeah.
All right. So I know we've got about 10 minutes and some change. Don't trust the email for sure. Yeah. Oh, and another thing too is, I think an important thing to what Richard's talking about is, like, cybersecurity budgets as they've grown, is talking about cybersecurity insurance. I've seen people that have paid $10,000 a year now get an $80,000 renewal, and it's because it's basically like we used to have 1980s car insurance, and now we have like 2020 car insurance, where they're actually going to pull your driving history plus your credit report plus this plus that and go, yeah, you might be driving this car, but we know that you're more risky than the average bear. And so there's a lot of places that are only starting their cybersecurity journey because of their cybersecurity insurance is forcing them that way. I'm working on a questionnaire right now for a client, and it's asking, do you have remote access, and if you do, what MFA are you using, is it for everything? And so for that client, they have to answer, yes, we have MFA, we are using it for external, but we're not using it for everything, because not every application is using it. So then we have to write in the other and comment section of explaining that primary access comes through VDI. In their deployment, it's AWS. So everybody's coming in through AWS using MFA, but then once they get there and they go to other applications inside or outside, those aren't requiring MFA. And so that insurance is really changing the cybersecurity game, because there's been so many ransom paid out and everything else. Yes. Yeah. I see more and more of that, Scott. Scott asked, are you seeing a lot of places using 2 accounts as well? One regular, one admin? Highly, highly recommended. Probably one of the easiest things we can do as nerds is separate that basic privilege like that. It can make a big, big deal.
Yeah, I was at a company where they had 3 of them. They had your normal, like, your normal account that you just do like email and whatever. And then they had your admin account for the server side, but it just was locked down to the server side. And then you had your, they call it your super admin account, where it did like the directory services and things like that. But you had to request it, and they gave you a time period. And then after that time period, that was it.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of PAM solutions and things like that come into play, right?
Yeah, what
So
Jonathan said.
you're checking out the account and going in from there. And Jeff has a good question there too. And Richard, good to see that the admin accounts are gaining popularity. So Jeff asked, does it cybersecurity insurance require many variables in place to qualify, like training and other expenses on top of the insurance rate? Yes, it does. Yeah. Some of them will require you to sign up for companies like IT Security Scorecard. If anyone's ever seen that, if anyone has insurance from a couple of the big providers, you're probably already using it. And that's what's dinging you. Because you have SSL v3 on some random web server, and it's going to lower your score. But yeah, some people will also recommend It require that people follow SIS frameworks, NIST frameworks, PCI frameworks, especially if they're in the payment card industry, and get an audit outside of them. I've seen all kinds of requirements that it's just kind of, and it's constantly changing. So there's not going to be a perfect answer forever because it's just moving so much.
So I work at how much time we have?
10 minutes, right? Is it 10
yes.
minutes? I know we left lots of time for questions because we were hoping for the best.
I think Duo does that, where he said that the PowerShell admin shares. I could be wrong, but so I worked at a company where they did exactly what Richard said, where all the privileged accounts, it was just IT period. So they had their normal login that was MFA'd, and then they had their IT account, but they had a maintenance account or a third account that had to be multi-factored as well through FAS and conditional access MFA for Microsoft. And then the place I'm at now is not only do you got to do that when you log in, but you also got to do it per server, every server you hit, and your maintenance account, your maintenance password changes daily. So
Right.
every day it's different. And
Yep.
it is pretty funny because I forget and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get my password for the day. And each server I log in, it's like, hey, you are who you are. Like, yep. And it's cool. But I can see where I've had some people in my past that they just get annoyed with that because they're old school, and they don't understand it.
I think that's the struggle. Even like we have it as nerds because we know it's going to hold us back. I was just on a call right before this where we were doing an image update for a Citrix cloud deployment, and after applying the March updates, and we both had to whip out our phones to be able to do anything because we had to MFA into the Citrix Cloud portal. Then I had to MFA into the desktop that I was using to run all the stuff on. And it was like, man, if your phone dies when you're at work, it's a real big problem when you're a nerd. And we need to make sure we also remember that, and don't forget that users are dealing with that too, right? And it's like this new burden and a new thing that we need to make sure we're paying attention to. Yeah, and I see some of the talk there. Yeah, summer 2022 with a bang is like the way to go for that secure password. And Richard mentioned Silverfort. I've got a couple of people that are using that. Very, very cool stuff. Rodney with CyberArk. Really, that was like the cat's meow. And then with Centrify and Thycotic and a couple of those, right? So there's some really, really awesome PAM solutions out there.
What was it? My last company, they went from, like my name's Ray Davis, so it was Davis whatever for my maintenance account. They started taking their accounts and putting like 5 special characters in front of them, and then some kind of identifier in the middle, and then it was like 2 characters after that. That was your admin account.
Yep.
And it threw me off, but
yeah, there's lots of obfuscation methods I've seen. I've seen places that will, like it's just first name, last name, first initial, last name is your login. But then for your super, it might have ADM or SU or some prefix or suffix, just like James is talking about, right? Something at there. But I've also seen obfuscation where it's like test account 3, test account 27, test account this. John Smith, this common names are the admin accounts so that they disappear into the haystack a little bit, or to what you're talking about too, Ray, where it's kind of like a gobbledygook of characters that doesn't say Ray anywhere. It doesn't say Citrix admin. It doesn't say anything that would make me go, ooh, I should attack that. Right.
Just wait till the day to where we get different usernames every day. If that's already, I'm sure it's probably already started.
Well, I mean, and I guess that's what's going to happen. And that's my fear as like a cybersecurity nerd is, biometrics has been growing, right? And like you got Windows Hello and you've got fingerprints and Touch ID and Face ID. And then you have the Duos, Oktas, One Logins and stuff like that are out there. And the Okras. That are going to get into more biometric stuff because they're using your phone as a biometric, right? And then, of course, you have FIDO2 for the win. Yeah. Make sure you buy more than one is the most important pro tip there when you go down those tokens.
I don't think I've ever used FIDO. I mean,
FIDO is sweet. So basically, you can get one of these tokens. You should buy 2, and they come with either NFC, Lightning, USB-C, USB-A, you plug it into the device when it's time to log on, right? And then if you don't have the thing, you can't log on. So where if we think about, and this happens when you do pen tests, if you think that MFA makes your users completely impenetrable, right? There's still a username, most likely a weak password, but MFA makes it stronger. There's so many MFA attacks and methods that are more social than technical, which means I just call someone, and I've done this before, and say, hey, I'm Patrick with IT. We've been having some problems with Duo. I can see you're using Duo from the outside, right? On whatever website in many cases. So I'm saying, hey, have you been having problems? Oh, no, mine hasn't been working. Are you sure? Because I keep getting this error. Can you help me out? We're trying to fix this before XYZ person. Okay, cool. So can you tell me those 6 numbers real quick? Bam. That's all it takes, right? Is a call, a conversation, a little bit of trust. You can get that along with text messages and emails that will prompt you for it in a fake location that isn't the right location so that they can gain those time codes. Now, when someone is bypassing MFA to get to you or your users, you've got big problems, right? That's that's a bad day because that means they're that committed to get into whatever your company is. So
I've even seen a place where they're taking, I mean, obviously people take their NetScalers and they put them in the DMZ and they put them in the internal LAN, and then it comes into their gateway, but they have it now where they're pointing their storefront to a fake IP address. And then inside of there, they have a NAT that's going from that fake IP address, which is still throws me off, to a SNP. And then the SNP on the back end is doing it on the network device. And then in storefront, that area where it says the server IP, that's the identifier that tells it what store to hit or what gateway to hit. I've even seen that, and that about broke my brain because I've never seen that before.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's where, Jeff's got a good point there too. A good example is why to set MFA on like VoIP systems. This is where on like, I know I've talked about this probably on some other slides where we talk about like personal privacy. This is where like real phone numbers can be bad. And SMS as a multi-factor system is not good because I can clone your IMEI and your SIM card basically in the simplest terms and be able to get the same text that you're getting so that I can log in too, right? But making sure you've got that. And when you use your real phone number for everything, it means that your real phone number can also be tracked and geolocated for a couple dollars or a partial, coin of Ethereum or something like that, or XRP. So definitely want to go from there. Oh, we got people winning prizes, Stephanie. What's going on? This is a session. We're doing like important work, Stephanie, and you're giving out prizes. Come on.
It broke my brain.
All right, Brandon and Chris, you've won a prize. Make sure you email Katie. Is she wearing sunglasses in this picture? Is she wearing sunglasses inside? Is she that cool now? I know she's been. Oh man. Oh yeah. If someone purchased your account, you are totally that cool. We agree. We're just noticing things, right? We're paying attention.
I get emails from my wife with Costco links, and I have to literally call her like, "Is this from you?"
Yeah. Phishing is getting smarter and smarter with the breaches. If I have the list of all the breaches, which I do, of everybody that was in the Target breach, right? If I send you Target gift card, I know that you went to Target, right? It's someplace you have been before, right? If I pull stuff out of the Marriott breach data and I send you something about a Marriott hotel, I know that you've had that too, right? So the breaches, as they become very specific and nuanced, means that phishing and everything else is just getting smarter and smarter, which makes it more and more dangerous. Where, to Richard's point, I love it. Just don't click it, right? Just don't click it. Whatever it is, just leave it alone. Oh, yeah, the 6-digit code for your prize. Okay, I like it. Yeah, just plug the USB device in there and you can get your prize.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think are we almost done? Has anybody got any other questions? This has been great. I'm glad we made, like, even though I know this presentation wasn't like uber nerdy, but we were trying to decrypt zero trust and
Yeah.
decode it because it's just this marketing term that really means a whole lot of things. So we tried to cover a whole lot, but not go deep enough. We got stuck in the weeds and leave time for questions.
Well, it's like everybody says, oh, just throw it in Azure. Well, Azure has like,
Oh,
what?
it's a whole nother set of problems,
Yeah,
right?
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that term.
Yeah. That's where like if someone finds out what your, with DNS records and stuff like that, what your Omni Microsoft URL is and stuff like that is, now there's all kinds of fun things someone can do by just knowing that. And anyone can find out anyone's information on Azure with that, right? And their Office 365 tenants and stuff like that. So yeah, going to the cloud does not make it more secure. Oh yeah. Oh, there's Andrew. All right.
Thank you, Patrick and Ray. I also liked you hearing that you're decrypting something for once as security folks instead of encrypting. So
we like to change it up,
it's appreciated. So up next, we have our roundtable discussions, and you can join Patrick and Ray to ask your zero trust questions, or you can join Steve Beals and ask your image portability questions. And we'll see you back on the main stage at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time for prizes. I repeat, 4:20 Eastern p.m. ET for prizes. You do not want to miss this. So, but enjoy the roundtables first.